Come along with me to explore the East Village in Manhattan. In this video, I'll cover the overall vibe, history, and must-see stops to help you plan out your day, or even if you want to stay long-term. You can check out my channel for more comprehensive videos of other NYC neighborhoods, but this is the East Village. The boundaries of this neighborhood extend from 3rd and 4th Avenues to the East River, and from 14th Street to the north and Houston Street to the south. The East Village has a very distinct vibe compared to other Manhattan neighborhoods. Artsy, lively, and hip, the neighborhood is a reflection of the people who inhabit it. The grime lends this neighborhood its edginess, while the ever-increasing number of trendy modern cafes, specialty shops, and clubs keeps it upbeat and desirable. On your first stop around the corner from the subway station, or as around the corner from the subway as you can get in the East Village, since it's more underserved by subway stations than other neighborhoods, is Bonnie Slotnick's cookbook store. This is completely dedicated to used cookbooks from different regions of the world and different time periods. Right next to it is Ergo Records. This independent record store specializes in secondhand vinyl and cassettes and focuses on house, disco, minimalism, and punk. They also have a lot of artist events you can sign up for on their own site. Turning the corner on 2nd Avenue, you'll find something peculiar and out of place. The New York Marble Cemetery, not to be confused with the New York City Marble Cemetery, is the oldest non-denominational cemetery in New York City, and vaults are filled with notable people from the 19th century during a time when the yellow fever caused the city to outlaw earthen burials. That's a little bit of history for you. While the East Village has tons of unique coffee shops, it can be hard to find seating since they tend to run on the smaller side. However, Kona Coffee & Company is one of the few where you can find great seating and Wi-Fi to work. Established in 2017, Kona Coffee Roasters is the only coffee shop that brings Hawaii's premium Kona coffee to New York City. Every month, their coffee is flown out from Hawaii to the East Village Cafe, and their signature drinks include the Hawaiian latte, coconut matcha, and oat milk draft. Now, 99-cent fresh pizza has always been a staple New York City chain, but lately they've been a lot harder to find, so if you're ever looking for a $1 slice, here's where to find it. After you grab your dollar slice, you can head down the street to the haven that is the refined toy collector's dream, known as Toy Tokyo. This store imports much of its unique, highly collectible inventory directly from Hong Kong and Japan. They carry exclusive collectibles from the Transformers to MCU characters to Thai Beanie Babies, and so much more. Plus, they even have an entire basement of the store dedicated to exclusive anime products. The Ukrainian Museum is the largest museum in the U.S. committed to acquiring, preserving, exhibiting, and interpreting articles of artistic or historical significance to the rich cultural heritage of Ukrainians. While you can find a little shop selling pretty much anything you can think of in the Lower East Side / East Village neighborhoods, these areas are most known for their abundance of thrift stores. Nomad Vintage is a collection of vintage and designer clothes handpicked from collections around the world. It was once called one of Manhattan's top 10 best vintage clothing stores by Culture Trip, and also made it in Refinery 29's Vintage Shopping Guide to NYC. Crossing over to this open space known as Cooper Square, you'll see a large cube sitting on its side. This cube, known as the Alamo, but colloquially called the Astor Place Cube, has been around for 55 years and used to spin, but just recently was put to a halt and people have not been happy about it. The Bray Bakery is the newest social media sensation thanks to its interesting use of Middle Eastern flavors and Copenhagen baking techniques. Known for their beautiful rose pistachio croissants and huge slices of focaccia, I was able to snatch their newest pear Danish, which is poached in ginger, orange peel, cardamom, cinnamon, and has black pepper with a layer of local blended goat and cow cheese with tarragon and a honey glaze. So many flavors go into this little pastry, and one thing is their prices are a little steep, but I guess that's just what you get for so many whole ingredients. And I don't know if I'm just desensitized to New York City prices at this point, but I thought it was worth it. I did have to stand outside at a table though because it was so crowded inside. Take a second here to listen to the crunch. Amazing. La Cabra is a widely recognized coffee roaster from Denmark that has recently moved into the NYC coffee scene. There's almost always a line outside thanks to their TikTok famous cardamom buns. So the East Village is known for its bar scene. I didn't want to focus too much on that, but I did have to stop in Barcade because of how packed it was in the middle of the afternoon. And Barcade just so happens to be the originator of the arcade bar concept. With 40 to 75 video games and pinball machines and up to 30 craft beers on draft, it's obvious why people love this place. You won't see shiny midtown high-rises in this neighborhood, but you will see a lot of stores stacked on top of each other and a diverse mix of cultures and cuisines. It's not every day you see a birria restaurant next to a Korean corn dog store. But while it's a haven of diverse culture and the birthplace of punk, it's also built for the inebriated as the designated going-out spot for the majority of New Yorkers. Heading over to what any New Yorker recognizes as an iconic East Village view, St. Mark's Church in the Bowery is the second oldest church building in Manhattan and has 350 years of history. In fact, it's so old the city grid had to be built around it, causing an interesting part in the streets. Next up is one of my favorite lunch spots in the city, Tim Ho Wan. Awarded 9 consecutive Michelin stars in Hong Kong and known as a dim sum specialist, Tim Ho Wan has some pretty solid dishes for inexpensive prices. I actually had lunch here with a friend not too long ago, and we got 4 shareables plus tea for both of us, and the total was still under $30, which is $15 each, and not bad for a Michelin-starred restaurant. Amsterdam Billiards Club has been self-proclaimed America's most famous pool room and NYC's favorite party space. They have ping pong, darts, foosball, beer, and so much more listed on their website. Since they charge per table, this would be a great spot to go with a group of friends. Another historical structure in the East Village is Webster Hall. Considered one of the first ever modern nightclubs, Webster Hall is one of the oldest and most famous concert venues in New York. And right down the street from it is another one of those beautifully grand buildings that sticks out from the typical apartment buildings and gets you to ask what it's all about. Well, I did some digging and turns out that this is simply an old school called Grace Church School. Cure Thrift is a large nonprofit thrift store that donates to type 1 diabetes research. A lot bigger than many other thrift stores in the East Village, they have an eclectic curated collection of clothes, home decor, and furniture. They've received rave reviews in the press and have been featured in HGTV, Refinery 21, CBS News, and were named Top 50 NYC stores of all time. Their pieces are a bit on the pricier side, but they also have a lot of name brands and vintage designer items. The vibe of this place makes it a whole experience in itself, and I'm sure I could spend hours there. Up next is one of the hottest restaurants in New York right now, known as Soother, but properly pronounced Sood. This restaurant has received Michelin Guide recommendations for the last 2 years and is co-owned by friends who grew up in different regions of Thailand, so they bring their diverse knowledge to dishes like Thai noodle soups that reflect Bangkok street food vibes. The Village East Theater is a New York City designated landmark on both the interior and exterior. It's a great stop to kick up your feet and take a break from walking for a few hours to catch the newest film. Tompkins Square Bagels is a true neighborhood bagel shop and is known as producing some of the best in all of New York. Even Timothy Chalamet calls this place his favorite, but some say the line makes it not worth it as it can stretch up to hours. Down the bustling 9th Street is a little-known staple vintage store, aptly named 9th Street Vintage. They showcase eclectic trinkets and charming one-of-a-kind pieces. One block down from 9th Street and referred to as America's coolest street is St. Mark's Place. From the 50s to the 70s, St. Mark's Place was home to various artists, and even Andy Warhol ran a nightclub on this street. On the same street sits a building labeled on Google Maps as simply the Led Zeppelin House, and it's the very building on the iconic cover of Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti album in 1975. Finally, on the easternmost end of the East Village, before you hit the Alphabet City neighborhood, is Tompkins Square Park. This park may not be as visually appealing as other parks like Central Park or Riverside, but it does host a lot of events, especially in the summer. My favorites are the musician showcases and farmers markets on Sundays, and of course, the Tompkins Square Halloween Dog Parade held in October. This neighborhood is practically made up of little hole-in-the-wall spots, but none quite exemplify it as much as 7th Street Burger. Known as one of the best burgers in New York City by many, the charm of this place is that there's nowhere to sit. You have to stand outside to eat it or sit on one of their street areas, and there's almost always a line, but I've heard it's worth it. And finally, I've included Pan of Two Garden on this list not because it's a particularly good spot to eat, but because of its impressive ambiance on the interior. It's been around for about 35 years, but in the last few, a bunch of celebrities have been photographed inside under these twinkling lights, and so, of course, lines have started to spill out the door, especially on Saturday nights. And as my final thrifting stop of the day, I headed to L Train Vintage. This might be one of the only thrift stores in the city that most people actually know about. Aside from its general popularity due to their explosion on TikTok, they do have one great feature that keeps people coming back. They refresh their inventory at least 3 times a week and are much more affordable than most other NYC vintage shops, especially at their Brooklyn locations. And so after a long day of walking around the East Village, I think I've finally got an idea of what it's all about. In the daytime, anyway. Which neighborhood should I visit next?